Hello and welcome to the Business Standard Morning Show. I am Ruchika Chitravanshi. It is 14th of June 2023 and here are the top stories for the day. Can India catch up in AI tech development? Why are Indian oil companies not reducing prices? Is it a good time to invest in OMCs? And what is the Giving Pledge? Generative artificial intelligence has become the watchword across the world. Big firms in countries like the US and China have been investing billions of dollars annually in the AI space. And the generative AI fever has India's tech startups in its grip too. But even with a big government push, can India catch up in the AI tech development race? Debhargya Sanyal checks out what's on the charts for India's AI development dreams.
Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, was in India last week as part of his six-nation tour. While replying to a question from Peak XV Partners Managing Director Rajan Anandan at an event, he had said it was totally hopeless to compete with us, as in OpenAI, on training foundation models, citing a hypothetical scenario in which three engineers with $10 million try to emulate the achievement. To this, Tech Mahindra MD and CEO CP Gurnani replied with a tweet. He accepted Altman's challenge. However, replying to Gurnani's tweet, Altman said his response was taken out of context. He said competing with OpenAI on a budget of a mere $10 million will be quite difficult. It was the wrong question, Altman said, and added that the right question is what a startup can do that's never been done before that will contribute a new thing to the world. I have no doubt Indian startups can and will do that. Altman's comments and Gurnani's tweets, meanwhile, have brought the spotlight on a larger question regarding India's place in the rapidly developing global generative AI sector. Can India catch up in the AI tech development race? Altman, in the same media gathering, had mentioned that he was surprised and delighted to see how quickly and how many Indian users had adopted ChatGPT. India has been at the forefront of embracing the technology, with startups rapidly embracing both generative AI and traditional AI across sectors such as health, education, legal services, and more. India is among the largest markets by the number of users for many companies behind AI products. It is also likely to generate one of the largest pools of data, both in terms of volume as well as diversity of the variables within each data set. A recent report by Deloitte also pointed out that 88% of the nearly 200 Indian companies surveyed for the report have increased their investment in both procuring and developing AI services in the last fiscal year.
So, India, I strongly believe, is poised to leapfrog into the AI race that exists. Obvious strengths that we do have are our demographics, our depth of engineering and science talent. The level of digitization has become a major add-on. Also, traditionally, a lot of our data collection at a national level on various topics has been not very structured as much as potentially in the more advanced markets. And therefore, it gives us that opportunity to actually leapfrog into the AI era. What we have done very successfully is solve problems for India in India, right? So there's a VC ecosystem, there's a ecosystem of companies which are willing to try out new products, etc., etc. So there's an ecosystem of product engineers and product mindset. So they have a lead that is quite significant, and I think we are bridging that gap.
However, the same report pointed out that organizations find it more difficult to sustain AI projects after the launch. Organizations experienced challenges in the scaling phase rather than in the starting phase. This indicates that most businesses continue to consider AI initiatives as limited time projects rather than a cornerstone of overall business strategy, the report said. Compare this to what OpenAI needed to get its AI services operational. The supercomputer developed by Microsoft for OpenAI is a single system with more than 285,000 CPU cores. It has 10,000 GPs and 400 gigabytes per second of network connectivity for each GPU server. Hosted in Azure, the supercomputer also benefits from all the capabilities of a robust modern cloud infrastructure, including rapid deployment, sustainable data centers, and access to the cloud computing services of Microsoft Azure. So, what then are the major challenges that Indian companies, especially startups, are likely to face towards scaling up to the level of OpenAI and their American competitors?
Traditionally there have been two challenges, right? The ecosystem in Silicon Valley is definitely superior to most of the ecosystems around the world, because you have a lot of backing of capital, right? Which is available for a long period of time. So the second part is some of the national support that's coming from some countries, right, into funding some of these AI companies. And you would have heard of the recent news about the UK. The backing of the Chinese government is well known, right? And the challenges for the industry are the huge compute that's often needed to develop some of these systems. But the good news really is that the Indian government is doing some fantastic things that you will, I'm sure, hear about to solve some of the issues around funding, around compute.
Industry insiders believe India's AI startup ecosystem is well poised to make its global presence felt and should not be taken lightly. They point out that while challenges persist, the government's support for developing the ecosystem and the tech industry's enthusiastic response towards the technology can deliver definite solutions to these challenges.
She'll soon be quoted on the front page. Business Standard.
The next few months will be both interesting and crucial as generative AI takes shape. Moving on, the prices of petrol and diesel are still on fire. This is despite low crude prices and a good showing by the Indian oil marketing companies in the recent quarter. So why are Indian oil companies not reducing their prices? Tariq Ahmed explores in today's special. The average crude oil price for Indian refineries or the Indian crude oil basket was close to $72 per barrel in the financial year 2022. It was a sharp jump from $44 a barrel in the previous financial year of 2021. One of the reasons for this steep rise in prices was the Russian attack on Ukraine. From March till July 2022, the price of crude oil stayed above $100. In June last year, it went on to touch the record price of $116. But since August 2022, prices of crude oil have remained under $100 per barrel. On Tuesday, that was June 13th, the prices of crude oil were hovering close to $70 a barrel. Brent was at $73. The performance of Indian oil marketing companies or OMCs is closely linked to crude prices, and because the average crude price came down in the later half of 2022, it found reflection in the balance sheet too. Oil marketing companies, Indian Oil Corporation Limited or IOCL, Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited or BPCL, and Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited or HPCL reported a cumulative profit of 20,000 crore rupees in Q4 of financial year 2023. And the price of crude oil has stayed below $80 for the last 2 months. Thus, it is expected that the profit that Indian OMCs experienced in the last quarter will be repeated in the Q1 of financial year 2024. Data for Q1 FY24 will be released in July. But retail fuel prices in India have remained unchanged for a little over a year. On May 22 last year, petrol and diesel prices were set at 96.72 rupees and 89.62 rupees per litre. But people like us are still paying close to 100 rupees a litre for petrol. In Delhi, petrol was selling at 96 rupees a litre. It was 106 in Mumbai this week. Diesel prices in Delhi have been consistently above 89 rupees since April 2022. Petrol prices reached the record of 105 rupees a litre last April in Delhi and stayed above 96 INR ever since. So why are Indian oil marketing companies not reducing their prices?
I think the way oil companies have kept their prices nearly constant, despite really very sharp increases in crude price in that April to September period of last year, has meant that there has been a fair amount of accumulated losses that they've carried. Right, while the last quarter itself was close to 20,000 crores of cumulative profit between the three oil marketing companies. Reality is that the entire fiscal was close to just about 7,000 crore, right? And if you compare it with FY22, when it was close to 45,000 crores, you're really talking about a net loss or a net opportunity loss of around 37,000 crores. Let's simplistically round it up to around 40,000 crores. And if you were to look at this year, going forward as another 40,000 crores, we're really saying that if I take the last quarter performance of 20,000 crores, you're really talking about almost 4 quarters of no price reduction just to kind of break even.
Though there has been a profitability in the last quarter of FY23, overall the financial year was tough for the Indian OMCs. Due to the higher crude prices, the first 2 quarters of FY23 were loss-making for 3 major state-owned OMCs in India. IOCL registered a cumulative net loss of 2,265 crore rupees in the first quarter of FY23. BPCL experienced a net loss of 6,594 crore rupees in the same period. HPCL took the biggest blow among the three. It was 11,000 crore rupees in the first 2 quarters of FY2023, and it brought down the net profits of OMCs in FY23 compared to the previous year. For instance, IOCL's net profit in FY23 was 8,242 crores compared to the 24,184 crores in FY22. HPCL, on the other hand, reported a net loss of 6,980 crore rupees in FY23 compared to 6,383 crore profit in FY22. So considering these facts along with distribution of dividends, Indian OMCs may take a bit longer to recover from the losses. So it will take more time for the benefits to reach the retail consumers.
Reality is that our estimate is that it's probably going to be Q3 before any reductions on the fuel pump side, right? And obviously you have to marry this with the fact that the government in turn has also suffered a loss as due to reduction in dividends, as well as in March of 22 they did an excise duty reduction. So the government social agenda also requires funding, right? So Q3, Q4 is probably a realistic time where we would see any changes in the petrol and diesel prices at the pump.
The price cut will be also dependent on the fluctuations of the crude oil prices in the international market.
There are currently 2 opposing forces. One is the entire recessionary trends, especially China, not the demand from China, consumption of China not ramping up to the expected levels. Its recovery has been much slower than expected. And second is, besides that, the US and US and many European countries are going into recession. So the demand would be impacted. And the other is obviously the cuts by OPEC Plus to balance prices or stabilize the market, as they say. So which of these will eventually sustain remains to be seen.
However, experts believe that if crude oil prices continue to stay below $80 in the coming months, there will be price cut benefits for the retail consumers. Taking cognizance of oil marketing companies' Q4 profits, which surged between 50% and over 150%, the government has hinted that they may reduce retail prices. But will OMCs accept the government's suggestion? How will it impact their earnings? And what should be the investors' strategy? Nikita Vashisht answers these questions in our next report.
Analysts have turned cautious on oil marketing companies after the government last week asked them to consider cutting retail fuel prices in the coming months. This move, they said, may affect their profit margin.
I think for every rally one should sell because, as you rightly said, state elections are coming in magistrates, followed by general election, and the government is very keen on fulfilling the fiscal deficit target. Now, government is not in a position to sacrifice its revenues, nor it can punish the public in terms of higher fuel prices. So, therefore, obviously, the OMCs will have to sacrifice their profit margin.
In quarter 4 of FY23, OMCs posted gross refining margins in the range of $14 per barrel to $21 per barrel. At the bottom line level, BPCL reported net profit around 7,560 crore rupees during the quarter, IOCL around 10,059 crore rupees, and HPCL 3,200 crore rupees. ICICI Securities believes if prices are reduced by or more than 4 to 5 rupees per litre, the margin cushion will go away. That said, much would depend on how the global oil demand pans out, especially in China and the USA.
Crude oil prices will depend on global demand, which in turn depends on how the global economy will behave in the coming months. If the US economy tips into a recession towards the end of this year, that will impact global growth, global oil demand, and the prices will come down and stabilize. On the other hand, if the US economy avoids a recession, oil prices will rise. In such a scenario, oil marketing companies will not be in a position to reduce prices.
Given this, Chokolingam of Economics Research says investors should book profit in OMCs as the shares have jumped up to 20% thus far in 2023. Earnings outlook too remains uncertain after quarter 1 of FY24. Kotak Institutional Equities also maintain reduce on BPCL and IOCL and sell on HPCL. Thus, the near-term outlook for OMCs has turned uncertain as the overhang of fuel price cut may affect their ability to sustain profits. On June 14, India's wholesale price inflation, the US consumer inflation data, and the US Fed's interest rate decision will guide the markets.
He's making plans for an early retirement. Business Standard.
Stock market is a means to create wealth for millions in the country. But sharing wealth can be as gratifying as creating it, maybe even more. Nikhil Kamath, the co-founder of Zerodha, which is India's biggest stock brokerage in terms of volume of trade, has been in the news recently for joining the Giving Pledge and promising to donate 50% of his wealth. But what exactly is the Giving Pledge? Ayush Mishra explains.
Zerodha co-founder Nikhil Kamath recently joined the League of Select Businessmen and Women who have pledged to donate a considerable chunk of their wealth to charitable purposes. Before him, Azim Premji, Kiran Majumdar Shaw, Rohini and Nandan Nilekani had made such a promise. Nikhil Kamath, who is 35 years old, is the fourth and youngest Indian to join the Giving Pledge. Kamath was quoted saying by a business website that, as a young philanthropist, I'm writing to express my gratitude whilst joining the Giving Pledge. Despite my age, I am committed to positively impacting the world and believe that the Foundation's mission of creating a more equitable society aligns with my values and aspirations. According to its website, the Giving Pledge is a promise by the world's wealthiest individuals and families to dedicate the majority of their wealth to charitable causes. Launched in 2010 by Bill and Melinda Gates along with Warren Buffett, it is a voluntary commitment undertaken by some of the world's wealthiest individuals and families. The purpose is to encourage wealthy people to dedicate a significant portion of their wealth to philanthropic causes either during their lifetime or in their will. The donated fund is used to address poverty and environmental issues, improving the condition of education and healthcare, and promote scientific research. By publicly announcing their intention to give away the majority of their wealth, signatories of the pledge aim to inspire others and demonstrate their commitment to making a positive impact on society. The Giving Pledge is not a legally binding contract, but rather a moral commitment that allows individuals and families to share their philanthropic goals and values. It serves as a platform for philanthropists to connect, collaborate, and learn from one another, sharing experiences and effective giving strategies. Since its inception, the Giving Pledge has attracted 241 philanthropists from 29 countries. Reid Hoffman, co-founder of LinkedIn, and his partner Michelle Yee, Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla and now owner of Twitter, philanthropist Mackenzie Scott, and Melanie Perkins and Cliff Obrecht, co-founders of Canva, are some of its notable signatories.
I'm backed by the nation's trusted bank, SBI, the banker to every Indian.
Kamath has joined the growing list of young philanthropists who have signed the Giving Pledge. Interestingly, FTX co-founder Sam Bankman-Fried too had pledged his wealth to this charity. But it looks like he may not be left with much, and his name too has been struck off from the website. Well, that's all we have for you today. For more news and analysis, please log on to business-standard.com. Thank you for watching.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.